This presentation on the changing tropical timber trade is delivered by Rupert Oliver, the Independent Market Monitoring Project's trade analyst. This presentation for Chatham House delivered in November 2018 to their illegal logging update meeting. The aim is to give a very brief overview of the situation in the global trade for tropical timber at the end of 2018, to comment briefly on the implications for the FLEGT VPA process. A bit of background on the Independent Market Monitoring Project. It's mandated by the FLEGT Voluntary Partnership Agreements between the EU and 15 tropical countries. It's funded by the European Commission, DG DevCo. It's managed by the International Tropical Timber Organization. The project, which was launched in 2014, was due to end at the end of 2018, but was recently extended to January the 31st, 2022. Objectives of the IMM: to independently monitor FLEGT VPA market impacts, to improve understanding of those impacts on timber prices, trade and market trends globally, to ensure that VPA partner countries and the EU provide reliable statistics and information on FLEGT timber trade and acceptance in their reporting, and to contribute to monitoring the impacts of the FLEGT action plan and to inform its wider implementation. Now, this chart shows the development of the global trade in tropical wood between 2004 and 2017. I put this up partly to show the products included in the IMM definition of tropical wood, and that includes everything in Chapter 44 of the HS, that's the harmonized system for product coding. It includes all wood products, plus products made out of wood in HS Chapter 94, which covers furniture. Now, the chart highlights that the long-term trend in trade in these products has been upward, although there was a major bump in the road during the financial crisis in 2008 and 2009, and another blip came with the bursting in 2015 of a bubble created by a speculative boom in rosewood, which of course is highly valued for traditional Chinese furniture. Most of the volatility in trade has been in logs, sawn and panels. Growth in the furniture trade, which is shown in green at the bottom of this slide, that has been much more consistent. There's also been a consistent increase in the trade in biomass, that's wood for energy, although most of this consists of hardwood chips which are exported by Vietnam to Japan. This slide shows the global tropical wood trade by region of import between 2004 and 2017. It highlights how the EU's role in global tropical wood trade has fallen, with EU import value declining dramatically during the financial crisis and remaining flat at around $4 billion between 2013 and 2017. In contrast, imports into China increased very rapidly to a peak of close to $12 billion in 2014 at the height of the rosewood boom. Imports into China fell away to around $8 billion in 2016 and recovered only a little ground in 2017. Imports of tropical wood into North America have been rising rapidly since 2011, as the US economy recovered after the crisis and due to the relocation of furniture manufacturing activity during this period away from the US to Asia. Much of this rise is due to increased United States wood furniture imports from tropical countries, particularly from Vietnam, and it consists of products made from imported timbers, which include temperate timbers as well as tropical wood. Imports of tropical wood into China have come off the boil a little in the last 2 years, with weakening of the speculative boom in rosewood. There has also been tightening of both export control and available supply in some countries, notably Myanmar and Malaysia. That has coincided with some cooling in the pace of economic growth in China. However, China remains hugely dominant in the global market for primary tropical wood products. Total imports of tropical logs in 2017 were 9.6 million metric tons. The main suppliers are Papua New Guinea, Solomon Islands, and a range of African countries. It's notable that large volumes of wood continue to be exported from Nigeria to China in 2017, and this can only be rosewood. and that's despite the CITES Appendix 2 listing for that species from the start of 2017. That led to a decision by the CITES Standing Committee in October 2018 to suspend commercial trade in rosewood from Nigeria until Nigeria has made a non-detriment finding for this species. Chinese buyers still generally prefer tropical logs over sawn timber. However, imports of tropical sawn have also risen into China in recent years, hitting 5.6 million metric tons in 2017. Much of this comprises rubberwood and other plantation timbers from Thailand. This slide shows the export trend of tropical wood products by main supply countries. It highlights that export growth has been concentrated in just two countries, Vietnam and Thailand. As we've seen, the growth in Thai exports is due mainly to plantation timber destined for China. Vietnam is merging rapidly as a major player in international wood markets, both as an importer of wood material and a large exporter of finished wood products. Now, Vietnam signed a FLEGT VPA in October 2018, and this presents unique opportunities and also challenges. The value of Vietnam's wood products exports stood at close to $10 billion in 2017, and it's rising by around $1 billion every single year. The vast majority comprises furniture destined for the United States, although exports to Japan and China have also risen. Exports to the EU have been more stable, but introduction of FLEGT licensing may help boost long-term growth in this market. Vietnam's wood imports have also been rising rapidly, and in 2017 included 1.7 million meter cubed of logs and 1.8 million meters cubed of sawnwood. Cameroon is the leading supplier of tropical logs to Vietnam, while Cambodia is the main supplier of tropical sawnwood. A significant challenge for the timber legality assurance system is to prevent illicit imports from Cambodia and Laos. As a large manufacturer of interior furniture, Vietnam also imports large quantities of temperate hardwood from the United States and Europe. Fragmented wood supply chains will present a challenge for the development of timber legality assurance systems in Vietnam. The timber sector comprises around 4,500 enterprises, which are mainly small and medium-sized. Most wood harvested in Vietnam now derives from plantations, which supply around 23 million meters cubed of wood and rubberwood each year, and these are primarily managed by smallholders. There are around 1 million plantation smallholders in Vietnam. The total value of Indonesia's exports of tropical wood products has remained quite stable at just under $6 billion in the period 2015 to 2017. However, Indonesia's exports of pulp and paper have been rising, and if these products are included, Indonesia was the world's largest exporter of tropical forest products in 2017. Indonesia became the first VPA partner country to issue FLEGT licenses in November 2016, which is a major achievement in a country with a forest area of around 91 million hectares, annual log production of close to 50 million meters cubed, and a complex forest industry exporting mainly secondary and tertiary products. In 2017, Indonesia issued over 200,000 V-legal certificates, covering 15 million tons of timber products exports, with a total value of nearly $11 billion. While FLEGT licensing applies only to the exports to the EU, V-legal certificates based on the SVLK legality system, they are required for all exports, most of which are destined for other markets in Asia, particularly China, Japan, South Korea, and India. The position of Africa in tropical timber supply has changed since the financial crisis in 2008-2009, and overall these changes have not been positive. The low international competitiveness of timber industries located in sub-Saharan Africa, combined with China's very strong preference for logs, has meant continuing heavy reliance on exports of primary wood products. The level of investment in infrastructure for downstream processing remains very low in many African countries. This is clear from the trade data shown here. The chart on the left shows that the share of logs in wood exports from Africa has been rising, while the share of further processed products such as mouldings, joinery, even plywood has been declining. The chart on the right shows that this has coincided with a sharp rise in exports to China, largely at the expense of exports to Europe. The challenges faced by European operators in the African region were highlighted in early 2018 when the French group Rougier filed for bankruptcy, blaming persistent difficulties in Cameroon, especially logistical problems in the port of Douala, and a taxation system which undermined competitiveness. Other European companies have scaled back or sold their operations in Africa. The role of domestic demand for tropical wood is often overlooked, partly because a large proportion of supply is from unregulated operations and there is so little data on consumption. However, recent work by C4 and CIRAD has gone some way to rectify that gap in African countries. The results of their survey work are startling and should be highlighted. In some countries, the volume of wood produced by informal chainsaw logging to supply the internal market is over double the volume of production for export. And this slide just gives some example of the survey work that has come out in the last few years, highlighting just how important the domestic market is for the supply of wood in many African countries. Moving on to look at the current state of the EU market for tropical wood products. EU import value of these products was €3.8 billion in 2017, having declined slightly in the previous 2 years. FLEGT licensed imports from Indonesia increased 1% in 2017 to €800 million, 21% of total EU tropical wood product imports. EU imports from the 5 African VPA implementing countries have been highly volatile in recent years, increasing 25% in the 2015 to 2016 period, and then declining 21% to €340 million in 2017. African VPA implementing countries currently account for around 9% of total EU tropical wood product imports. The share of tropical countries in total EU wood product import value fell continuously from 36% in 2004 to only 21% in 2014 and has bumped along the bottom at that level for the last 3 years. The loss in share was initially to China and more recently to the United States, to Russia and European countries outside the EU. Through trade consultations and surveys, IMM has been exploring the reasons for this loss of share of tropical wood products in the EU market and the potential for FLEGT licensing to help halt and reverse this trend. We're finding that there are multiple reasons for this loss of share, some of which are summarized on this slide. I won't go into detail of each of the individual reasons. The key point from an IMM perspective is that concern about legality and challenges of EUTR compliance, that's compliance to the EU timber regulation, they are only part of the story. This implies that while FLEGT licensing can provide a foundation for long-term market development in the EU and in other markets, it's not a magic bullet. There are other competitiveness issues that also need to be addressed through improved investment and also through wider market development initiatives. For this reason, it should come as no real surprise that there has been no consistent increase in Indonesian trade with the EU following the introduction of licensing. There are some positive signs for a few product groups such as plywood and paper, and in a few EU member countries, notably the Netherlands and the UK. It's also worth pointing out that the start of licensing in Indonesia coincided with the introduction of quantitative easing by the European Central Bank, and this significantly weakened the value of the euro on foreign exchange markets. One effect of this was to boost the price competitiveness of manufacturers in the eurozone. So not an easy environment at all for Indonesian suppliers in this market, particularly when it is considered that local manufacturers account for at least 80 to 90% of supply of most timber products into the EU. So that's a fairly rapid fire run through some of the key trends in the international and European tropical wood trade. I'll close by highlighting a few IMM outputs where more information is available. IMM has a website at www.flegtimm.eu. On there you will find copies of our annual reports, the most recent being 2017. The 2018 annual report will be made available at the website probably in June or July 2019. There's more regular newsletters also available on the website, or you can sign up to receiving our regular e-newsletter. We offer trade consultations. It says the next there is in Berlin in November, but in fact that was in November 2018. The next one is in fact in Antwerp in April in Belgium. We have a data dashboard on our website. There's a visualization from that data dashboard shown at the bottom of the slide, but you can get there various different visualizations and access to the raw data on the EU's trade with all the VPA partner countries and with other tropical countries. We have special studies. Again, these are accessible and made available, freely available on the website. Most recently, one has been put together and is now published on the website on the EU wood furniture trade and how that relates to the VPA and FLEGT licensing process. More special studies will follow on wood promotion programs. How is FLEGT licensing being integrated into those wood promotion programs? Is it recognized in these wood promotion programs? Similarly, is it recognized in private sector green procurement policies? Another study will be prepared on that in 2019. And also a very important study we've got ongoing in 2019, looking at the impact of the VPA process on the investment risk profile of the countries that are engaged in the process. That again will be published probably in the middle of 2019. Thank you for listening. That concludes my presentation. I am Rupert Oliver, the IMM Trade Analyst. If you've got any comments or any questions about the contents of this presentation or the statistical data or other market survey data on the website or in the reports issued by IMM, then please feel free to contact me by email. My email address is shown there. Or indeed, you can contact Sarah Stork, who's based in Germany. She's the lead consultant to the IMM, and her email address is also shown on that slide. Thank you.